Cabinet ministers have been warned that the government's landmark plan to address the housing crisis is missing key targets and won't deliver the number of properties needed to address the long-running property supply problem. A private meeting of the Cabinet Committee on Housing was told that the Housing for All policy needs to be urgently revised and additional budget funding for the £4 billion plan may be required if it is to meet its objectives. Now, I have to say, when I read it, I was semi-underwhelmed, simply because I don't think it's very surprising, because frankly 4 billion isn't worth what it used to be, and with inflation running at 9% and construction inflation higher than that, and the supply chain difficulties that we've had and the lack of manpower, that we haven't been able to get people to work in housing or on sites, when this plan was drawn up, the 4 billion looked like a huge chunk of change, and it is. But it isn't quite worth what it was. And I think realistically, this is an unsurprising story. What do you make of it?
It's unsurprising, but it is depressing. I think it goes to the heart of why we're not building enough houses in this country still. Some of it goes back to the COVID-19 shutdowns. They're still having a knock-on effect, but there's way more to it than that. There's all sorts of bottlenecks. Like the lack of availability of labour is a problem. You mentioned already building inflation, which is definitely having an issue. I've heard councillors in particular giving out about this need to go out to tender on absolutely everything. They're saying that's causing delays. Each social housing scheme has to have its own design. Apparently that's causing delays. City centre apartment developments are obviously trickier. Court cases, people... and
judicial reviews,
and I think politicians, including politicians on the left, have to take a long hard look at themselves, because every time there's a housing development there is objections. Now some of those objections are legitimate, some of the schemes are not up to scratch, but literally every time there's a development there is a race among politicians to object to it.
Are you saying it's NIMBYism?
Yeah, there is definitely an element of NIMBYism. Some of it, as I say, is justified, some of it less justified, but it is interesting. I've noticed there is a development very close to me, a social housing development, and it is taking an eternity to complete. Due to be complete, we were told, by March or April, still being built now, and I suspect it's because of some of the issues, particularly lack of availability of labour. I suspect here it needs to be sorted. I think the plan is to build 9,000 new social houses in 2022 and 90,000 by 2030. We need them built. That is absolutely essential.
Yeah.
And we need to tackle these shortcomings.